Hello everyone, this is David from Automotive Press, and I am super excited today to talk about the next generation Toyota 4Runner, which will come out in about a year to year and 3 months away. So the 2023 4Runner is just around the corner, and I'm going to tell you all about the next generation 4Runner. Now, I have owned many 4Runners over the years. So I've owned the 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 4Runners in a variety of different configurations, including the Limited, which I have here, and the TRD Pro. So I'm very familiar with the 4Runner, and in 2020 we switched some of our fleet of cars to the RAV4 Prime to save some fuel efficiency, and I switched my 4Runner to the Tacoma TRD Pro. But still, I have fond memories of driving and owning the 4Runner for many years, and I still think it's one of the best SUVs out there, and something that's as close as you can get to Land Cruiser without getting into that really high pricing. And of course, the Land Cruiser is being discontinued from US, so the 4Runner is the closest thing we have right now that is truly off-road capable. But let me give you, as much as I can, some of the highlights of the new 4Runner that's coming out using this 2021 as a reference model, and let me walk you around and give you 5 reasons why you might want to wait for the new 2023 4Runner. So this is 2021 4Runner Limited, and it still looks very good. It's an attractive profile. It's got a kind of that true off-road look and feel. And as I mentioned, when I owned this for several years, I truly enjoyed my time with it. It is still very practical, although it's definitely getting outdated and time for a change. So really excited to talk about new generation 4Runner, which should come out no later than the fall of 2022 calendar year as a 2023 model year. So what I'm going to do is give you 5 reasons why you might want to wait for the new model, but at the same time point out all of the little changes that will happen going from a 2021 to the next generation 2023. Now, I will talk about this in future videos, but for now I do want to say that everything indicates that the 4Runner will be launched on time according to some of the previous schedule we have seen, which is the late fall of the calendar year 2022 as a 2023 model year. So everything is still pointed to that direction, and from what I can gather talking to Toyota folks, there has not been any kind of product delays due to the current chip shortage or supply chain issues, because they have already allocated those supplies for these new product launches. So I don't believe that the delays are actually real, even though you might be hearing about that from different sources. And so the good news is that the new 4Runner should arrive before end of the calendar year 2022. The next generation 4Runner will be using the new TNGA F platform. TNGA stands for Toyota New Global Architecture. It's a whole new way of designing, engineering, and building a model. And at Toyota, of course, all of the models are going through this transformation. So eventually, everything will be TNGA based. And I know that because of my automotive background, designing and building and developing and testing cars, I have an intimate knowledge of the TNGA method. And what it does is essentially create a more sound structure, better rigidity, and much better overall performance around. And what it does is basically bring everything to a much higher standard. So the first reason to wait for the new model is that the 2023 4Runner will definitely perform better in all aspects than this current model. I'm talking about everything from the powertrain to suspension, handling, and also the ride and feel will all be improved because the TNGA platform is much stiffer. It lowers the center of gravity and brings everything together in a much more coherent way. Now, the good news is that for those people who are worried about whether or not the 4Runner will retain the body on the frame chassis, it will. So the new 4Runner will still be a separate body from separate frame underneath, and that will provide a much more rigid and much more sound background and the base for off-roading and for more difficult terrain. So that will remain. It will also continue to be built at the Tahara factory in Japan. I have been to that Tahara factory quite a few times. It is where most of the Lexus are built, and it's one of the highest ranked factories in the world. So that's a good news. And so that won't change. But because the suspension will be substantially changed, it's going to handle much better. The current model actually has hydraulic steering still. So surprisingly, it's one of the very few models in the world that's still using the old hydraulic steering. Now that gives you a little bit more road feel, and it gives you a little bit heftier feel as well. But it's pretty numb and it's not very fast around corners. This thing sways a lot and it's pretty soft and pretty cushy, but it is not very stable around corners. So the new model will have much improved suspension. In following the Land Cruiser's approach, it will improve the both front and the rear suspension pieces. We will have much better combination of the suspension, the way the tires and the wheels work, and also because of the body is more structurally sound, it will just be more stable over both bumpy roads and on the highways. So new model will definitely be quieter, will ride better. It will handle substantially better in my opinion, because the current model is again very loose, and perhaps that's the weak point of the current generation 4Runner. And so you're going to enjoy driving the new model better. So the first reason why you might want to wait for the next 4Runner is that it's going to be more comfortable, refined, but most of all, it's going to perform better. The second reason why you might want to wait for the new 4Runner is the fact that it's going to be far more fuel efficient. Now, the current engine is a 4-liter 6-cylinder engine, and it works reasonably okay. It's got pretty good grunt feel and it performs adequately, but it is kind of slow, 0 to 60, and the fuel efficiency is not very good. Now, when it comes to the powertrain, there are still lots of questions about exactly what the new 4Runner will have. But all signs point to the 4Runner adopting the same engine as a Lexus NX, which gained a number of interesting powertrain for 2022, including a new 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that is good for 275 horsepower and 317 pound-foot of torque. It's made it to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and that's likely what's going to go into the 4Runner, despite the fact that a lot of you probably want Toyota to keep a 6-cylinder engine, either the current 4.0-liter V6 or the 3.5 that's in the Tacoma. So unfortunately, Toyota is definitely moving toward a smaller engine with a turbocharged that provide a higher efficiency. So I'm quite sure that's what the new 4Runner will get, along with obviously a hybrid option and potentially even a plug-in hybrid. The hybrid option will more than likely mirror exactly what the NX has, which is using more of a standard legacy system that we already see in the Highlander right now and the RAV4, which uses, again, a 4-cylinder engine along with a hybrid system. So that hybrid model is likely going to be using a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine with Toyota hybrid drive system, which uses 2 high-torque electric motors and a lithium-ion battery pack that is matched to a CVT transmission. Finally, would we see an actual plug-in hybrid for the new 4Runner? I doubt very much it will be available right off the bat, but it's such an important aspect of Toyota's strategy to electrify everything, and fully electric 4Runner might still be a few years away. So I wouldn't be surprised if Toyota decide to offer the plug-in hybrid for the new 4Runner, which will be really exciting. And in that case, it will again likely use the same powertrain that's on the RAV4 Prime, which is the same powertrain that's also in the new Lexus NX. If the plug-in hybrid system does become available for the 4Runner, it will be powered by a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that works together with electric motor and high-capacity lithium-ion battery pack. Most likely the fully electric range will be similar to the RAV4 Prime, so around 50 to 55 kilometer perhaps, and it will attain a really good fuel efficiency, of course, because you can drive in fully electric mode for a while and then only switch to hybrid when the battery juice runs out. Finally, I do want to comment on the drivetrain, which is going to be similar to what we have right now, which means part-time four-wheel drive on demand, much like what we have on all of the 4Runner models. And also the 4Runner should offer the all-wheel drive model that's currently standard on the limited model. The new 4Runner will have substantially improved technology and features as well, which brings us to the third reason why you might want to wait for the new 4Runner. So all kinds of components will change. We will see a substantially improved headlight design, and of course it will be fully LED, and even the fog lamp should be LED on the new models. And then let me point out a few things on the interior. Now in the new Lexus NX that was just announced, they don't even have a moving door handle now. Instead of having to pull this door handle and open it, it's a fixed door with electronic touch that you just touch and then it opens electronically, much like in Tesla. So I suspect that might come down to the 4Runner as well. I'm not too crazy about that electric type door handle because I prefer to pull and open, but I believe that's coming eventually to most of the Toyota and Lexus lineup. So let me hop into the inside and show you what else would change. The current 4Runner have gone through some improvements over the years, and of course it has Apple CarPlay now, but it's not wireless, and in general this thing is still quite pretty inside, but very, very outdated. So the new model will have a whole bunch of changes. We're going to see a fully digital or semi-digital instrument. This portion will be bigger and at least partly digitized. The center portion here will have a lot more information, and potentially it could be digital all across. But this will change a lot. This is a very small screen. This should become at least 12 inches in a new model, and maybe even 14 inches because the new infotainment system with a 14-inch display was just recently shown in the new Tundra. So in the 4Runner, I would suspect at least a 12-inch in the upper models, and then potentially 14-inch in the flagship model. And it will still have some buttons, hopefully. And it will also be using the new software OS that Toyota is releasing now. And so this whole thing will look very different. And thankfully, we will finally get wireless Apple CarPlay. This area will look very different in a new model because it'll be much more compact, potentially with a push button selection instead of a lever up and down. Of course, we'll end up with things like with the cup holder and so forth. And the seats will also change because right now the seat is kind of flat with very little contour, and I found them to be a bit too soft for longer drive. So I think they will improve the seat comfort. They're changing to a newer type of foam inside, so the seat itself will look different and feel very different. Overhead, this is a limited model with a full-time all-wheel drive, so we don't have as much of the off-road capable functions here. But of course, in the 4Runner off-road and the TRD Pro, we will have the full function multi-terrain accessories and off-road capable features. So that will remain for the new model. And then some of these, the controls will look also very different. And all of the latest safety features will become standard. Lexus just introduced the new 3.0 plus safety features on the NX, and most of that will become standard, or at least part of the upper package for the 4Runner, and it's pretty impressive. Not just the collision mitigation, but also ability to detect pedestrians and bicyclists, so you'll be a safer vehicle as well. I am not sure about this one, but the Land Cruiser has a fingerprint authentication system where you can just put your finger on the start button, you'll read your fingerprint and start the engine. That's because the Land Cruiser has a very high theft rate, and they're trying to avoid that as much as possible. I'm not sure if that will carry onto the 4Runner for 2023, perhaps as an option or on a limited model, but likely not standard equipment. We might even get a much improved sunroof. These are just a conventional moonroof here. On the new 4Runner, it will be much bigger. It will probably go all the way to the back. Potentially, we might even get the Toyota Venza style panoramic roof where you can push the button and the whole thing just becomes opaque and it changes instantaneously. But that particular sun-gazing roof, as they call it, doesn't open, so that wouldn't be preferred way for me. But definitely, this will be much bigger in the new 4Runner. Otherwise, they're going to try to keep this kind of a rugged look compared to something like in the Venza or in the Highlander. In those cars, it's a very high-tech look, whereas in the Land Cruiser and then the new 4Runner will likely keep some of this kind of rugged feel with the big buttons that allows you to use them with the gloves on. So those are some of the potential changes on inside. By the way, these functions on the steering wheel will change quite substantially. These are kind of old style buttons, and there will be more additional functions added to the steering wheel. So those are also potential changes. The fourth reason to wait for the new 4Runner is that it would just be a better packaging overall and better design of things like the rear tailgate. Right now, this is still a very heavy door, and then the way that the third seat folds down, while it's flat, it is pretty high. Look at how much of the height there is here, and so that has to change substantially for the new model, because I know they will keep the 3-row configuration for the new 4Runner, but this will become much lower and it'll lie much flatter than this. So those are some of the changes. And then there will be electric tailgate, which we don't have in this 4Runner. It's still very heavy, manually open and closed system. That will definitely go away. And overall, we're going to get a bigger space inside. So it will be more usable, better packaging. Like this seat belt here for the third seat, I always find it really hokey. You gotta stick it in here and then try to hold it in place. But this kind of rattles in the rough roads and so forth. So I found those things really annoying. So the whole rear design for the cargo compartment and then also the seats will be substantially improved. It'll just be a much better packaging inside. The SUV will grow in size a bit, so it's going to get a little bit bigger. So you're going to get more space inside as well. And also the seat in the back here will improve. Right now the legroom is decent, but I think that has to improve also. And so the packaging will be improved, and you're going to be way happier with the interior of the new 4Runner coming up. And the fifth reason why you want to wait for the new 4Runner is that it's simply going to look stunning. I think the current model is okay and surprisingly decent looking still, but as you can tell, design hasn't changed for many years and it is definitely looking outdated. The new model will feature something closer to the Land Cruiser. Since the Land Cruisers are getting canceled, you can expect the 4Runner to carry some of that weight. So I think both the new Sequoia, also coming out next year about the same time as a 4Runner, and the new 4Runner will have to carry all of the weight that was lost by the Land Cruiser's departure. So you can expect a little bit more of a rugged look, a cleaner, much integrated front design. The body will become more streamlined. It won't get taller, but it might get a little bit wider and a bit longer because the new 4Runner will be slightly bigger. It will sit on the same TNGA-F platform as the Land Cruiser and also shared with the Sequoia and the Tundra. So they will share more of the same components. Thankfully, it will still be built in Japan at the Tahara factory, but the overall look and feel will be much more modern. Now, some of us do like this kind of old-fashioned design. In that case, you might want to buy the current one because it's only about 1 year and 3 months away before a new model is introduced. But if you're digging the newer look as we saw in the Land Cruiser, then you definitely want to wait because the new model will be thoroughly modern and will be refreshed from front to back. So I just gave you 5 reasons why you might want to wait for a new generation 4Runner, and I walked you through some of the changes that are coming up. And if those are good reasons for you, then you definitely want to wait. Perhaps some of you won't like those changes. You like the old-fashioned approach and more of the proven design that we have right now. Then I will go and run and buy the current 4Runner because that's going to be gone very soon. And of course, Toyota has made some changes to the 2022 4Runner, including introduction of a new TRD Sport and then dropping some models such as a Nightshade. So there has been some consolidation of the models in preparation for a new one coming out. So overall, the transformation that will take place with the new 4Runner will be impressive, and you'll be thorough from bumper to bumper, and I just can't wait to see that one. I'm working on a new rendering of the 4Runner, so let me continue to work on that. There has been almost no spy photos or leaked photos of the 4Runner anywhere, and that is because the 4Runner is built in Japan, not built in North America, not built in the Texas factory where the Tundra and the Sequoia will be built. So it's really hard to get hold of the leaked photos because in Japan, it's just a much tighter security, and they have a huge compound for testing. So they don't have to take out any of the prototyping to the outside, to the normal city and public roads. That's why we don't see any spy photos anywhere. But I suspect as we get closer to the date, perhaps early next year, we will probably see some leaked photos come out. And by the way, I've already placed a deposit on the new generation 4Runner, so I will be the very first person to pick it up and own it before anyone else in North America, because I don't think anyone has placed a deposit this early, year to year and a half in advance. So I'm really looking forward to getting the new generation 4Runner. I got my deposit on this one, and I will definitely be the very first person in the US or Canada to actually own the new generation 4Runner. So that's it for now, folks. A lot more information to come on the 4Runner, and I will be visiting Japan later this year, and I plan to visit the Tahara factory where the 4Runner is built. So a lot of information coming your way. Thank you so much for watching. That's it for now. Signing off, and catch you later.